We're going to learn how to use the denominator on a fraction to write this as a decimal. We're going to round it to the nearest hundreds if necessary, so two decimal places. Now, I want to use the denominator. In a fraction, the number on the top, that's what we call the numerator. The number at the bottom is what we call the denominator. So I'm going to use a denominator. So I'm going to use the number at the bottom to write this as a decimal. I want the denominator to be a 1 with zeros. So I want the denominator to be either 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, any number as long as it's a 1 and zeros. I don't care about the numerator. I care about the denominator. Sometimes I might have to multiply my denominator by something. Right? Looking ahead, looking at my question number 7, right? The bottom is not a 1 with zeros. All right, so once I have the denominator being a 1 with zeros, my answer, what I'm going to do, let me write my numerator. So my answer will have a 1. The denominator tells me how many decimal places. And I'm going to know how many decimal places is based on the amount of zeros. In this case, I only have 1 zero, so my answer will only have 1 decimal place. Remember, decimal place means how many numbers after the decimal point. So, point 1. Usually before the decimal point, if there's nothing, we write a 0. So my answer for this is as simple as 0.1. I want the denominator, right, the number at the bottom, to be a 1 with zeros. My answer will have the numerator, the number on the top, but then I look at how many zeros at the bottom to know how many decimal places. All right, let's take a look at another example. 39 over 50. All right, so I want the number at the bottom to be a 1 with zeros. So I want the number at the bottom to be either 10, 100, 1,000. I could divide it by 5, to make it 10, but whatever you do at the bottom, you have to do it at the top. 39 divided by 5, it's not going to be nice. Another thing I can do is multiply this by 2, right? 50 times 2 is 100. So let me multiply top and bottom by 2. I know at the bottom I get 100. 50 times 2 is 100. Now, 39 times 2. We know how to multiply it. I'm going to go 39 times 2. I know 3 times 2 is 6. 9 times 2 is 18. So bring down the 8, 7. 39 times 2 is 78. Okay, so now that I have my fraction in the denominator, right, the number at the bottom is 1 with zeros, my answer will have 78. That's the number on the top. My answer has a 78 in it. The bottom, I see how many zeros. In this case, 2. So that means my answer should have 2 decimal places. What I mean with that is 2 numbers after the decimal point. If there's nothing in front of the decimal point, we fill up a 0. So my answer is 0.78. Remember, the zeros at the bottom tell me how many decimal places. The number on the top, it is in my answer, right? You see the 78 in my answer. Let's take a look at one more example, a couple more. I can make this into the bottom. I want it to be either 10, 100, 1,000, anything that I can. I cannot make it into 10, right? Like 4, make it into 10. I'm not going to deal with that. But I can make this into a 100. I can multiply 4 times 25, right? That's going to give me 100. So let me multiply the top by 25 as well. So I get 25 over 100. I wrote my fraction, but I want the denominator, the number at the bottom, to be a 1 with zeros. Now my answer will have a 25, right? There's a 25 in my answer. I'm just writing the number from the top. I look at the denominator, I see how many zeros. In this case, there's 2 of them. So my answer should have 2 decimal places. That means 2 numbers after the decimal point. If there's nothing in front of the decimal point, we fill up a 0. So my answer is 0.25. 1/4 is 0.25 in decimals. Let's take a look at one last example. I want the denominator, I want the number at the bottom to be a 1 with zeros. I want it to be either 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, anything I can think of with 1 and zeros. I cannot make 25 into 10. Right? Once again, I'm looking at the number at the bottom, but I can make this into 100, right? If I multiply this by 4. 25 times 4. So let me multiply the top by 4 as well. I know the bottom, 25 times 4 is 100. I wanted the number at the bottom, I wanted the denominator to be a 1 with zeros. Now I need to know how much is 17 times 4. That's my answer on the top. I know how to multiply it using my boxes. 17 times 4. I know 1 times 4 is 4. 2 times 4 is 28. There's the 8. 4 plus 2 is 6. So in this case, I get 68. Right, 17 times 4 is 68. I wrote my fraction, but the number at the bottom is 1 with zeros. Now my answer will have a 68, right, the number at the top. Then I look at the number at the bottom and I ask myself, how many decimal places? It is equal to how many zeros? My answer will have 2 decimal places. That means 2 numbers after the decimal point. So my point goes here. If there's nothing in front of the point, I fill up a 0. So my answer is 0.68. Right? We want that denominator. The denominator, once again, is the number at the bottom. We want that denominator to be either 10, 100, 1,000, anything we can think of, as long as it's 1 with zeros. The amount of zeros is how many decimal places we get.